cameras. Action!
News 4 presents Sunset Boulevard, Sunset Over the Rockies, with your host, Greg Moody and Renelda Muse.
Good evening. I'm Renelda Muse.
And I'm critic at large, Greg Moody.
Tonight we're going to take you on stage and backstage for a first in Denver, the opening of a national theatrical tour, the first national tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard.
And we're going to bring you the history of the film, the show, and the music. And we'll introduce you to Linda Balgord, who stars as Norma Desmond.
And we'll bring you here, another first for Denver, an opening night party unlike any you've ever seen.
Welcome to Sunset Over the Rockies.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Norma Desmond may be ready for her close-up, but is Denver.
And now, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
And now, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Well, we'll keep trying.
Sunset Boulevard began as a controversial film, one that so affected Hollywood that it breathed new life into Gloria Swanson's career and absolutely cemented director Billy Wilder's reputation. Critic at large Greg Moody tells us more now about the movie behind the music.
Around the Paramount Studios in the late 40s, it was known quite simply as A Can of Beans, a red herring of a title for a movie that would chew its way under the skin of Hollywood like no other before or since.
I had landed myself in the driveway of some big mansion that looked run down and deserted.
This was the 13th movie that Charles Brackett and Billy Wilder had worked on together. With Ninotchka and Ball of Fire, The Major and the Minor, and The Lost Weekend, they had become the most powerful screenwriting, producing, and directing team in Hollywood. Sunset would be their last picture together.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
It was Charlie Brackett's idea originally, a comedy about an aging movie star who gets back at all the people who threw her out of the business. But Wilder had grown cynical in the post-war years, and he overwhelmed the project, putting his own spin on the story.
Quite a character, that Norma Desmond.
She was the greatest of them all. You wouldn't know, you're too young.
At first, it was a story of Joe Gillis, a screenwriting gigolo in Hollywood. But after Gloria Swanson tested for the role, she brought such power and madness to the screen that the story shifted to Norma Desmond and has stayed there ever since.
Say it.
The release of the film did not go smoothly. The movie was shelved for 6 months. An opening sequence in a morgue was dropped, one of Wilder's favorites, in favor of the voiceover in the swimming pool. Brackett and Wilder split, Hollywood power brokers cursed the movie, and yet Sunset survived. It set Wilder apart as a writer and director, gave Swanson the role of her life, William Holden his stardom, and audiences around the world a look inside the mind of Norma Desmond.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
To say this movie had an effect is an understatement. At the Hollywood premiere, Louis B. Mayer, the head of MGM Production, screamed at Billy Wilder, saying he had single-handedly destroyed the movie industry. Wilder's reply was lively, to say the least. To take a film like this, a controversial film, and move it to the musical stage was a real challenge, but one that Andrew Lloyd Webber accepted. Renelle Demuse has that story.
Initially, I was very attracted to obvious things like the return to the studio, where there is a song called Everything's As If We Never Said Goodbye, which is a great moment. And there's also the famous moment when she says, they don't make faces like mine anymore. I don't need words. I can do everything I want to with my eyes and all of that. And that, of course, is translated into a song called With One Look.
While any number of Broadway shows have gone on to Hollywood successfully, reversing that trip is difficult, if not quite nearly impossible.
I thought there were a lot of very good musical moments potentially when I first saw the film, but I had one or two reservations about it, I think, at the time, because I thought that, yes, it could be very effective, but I was worried that actually whether actually you care about the people in it.
Webber also faced what can only be described as messing with an established Hollywood classic. He was, in a sense, trying to score a Hollywood film theatrically. He was dealing with the audience anticipation, its knowledge and love of the original, as well as a lack of surprise and suspense, for we all know how it ends. And yet, the challenges of the movie offered dramatic musical possibilities.
Little fragments that appear earlier on develop into things that happen at the end, and therefore they can, in my view, produce a drama that is unique, and it can only be done through music.
Sunset Boulevard, Frenzied Boulevard.
Sunset, of course, is a story of four people, and like everybody in the story, they're all looking for something, and there is something that is not there that they want. And so I began the whole idea of the piece by thinking that it's got to have a restless time signature.
With a restless and somewhat ragged styling in the score, Andrew Lloyd Webber, in his own style, captures the cynical style of Billy Wilder and puts a dramatic theatrical spin on a stark and shattering Hollywood classic. To date, there have been 5 productions of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard. London, Los Angeles, New York, Berlin, Toronto, and now Denver. Reason enough to party.
And now, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Is it Mr. DeMille or DeMille?
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
Aren't we all? Up next, a backstage tour and the woman who makes Norma Desmond come alive.
Greg, today, Norma Desmond is a role coveted and played by the biggest names in show business. Patti LuPone, Diane Carroll, Glenn Close, Betty Buckley.
Yeah, and when Linda Balgord auditioned for the role, she did it in Los Angeles. She didn't get the part, but Andrew Lloyd Webber liked her voice so much that he flew her to London and introduced her as the woman who someday, somewhere in the world, would be playing Norma Desmond. And in Denver, she is.
Everything's as if we never said.
It's a role that actresses wait a lifetime to play, to create in a premiere, in an opening, or, in the case of Linda Balgord, in a national tour. And she's determined to stand apart as Norma Desmond.
I saw a couple of the women in the musical role, and I've seen the film, but I don't think you can ever approach a role without doing what you truly believe in your heart. And I think that that I approached it completely as that I hadn't seen it or heard it, and just to do it completely freshly and honestly.
And yet, Norma Desmond has her demands. As a role,
it's quite a broad range. I don't exactly know how many octaves, but it uses pretty much everything I have available. Yeah. It's wonderful in that way, because the best roles are roles where you get to use every part of your voice.
And as a character.
She was someone who loved the work, not just being a movie star. And I think she's very lonely, very frustrated, and deluded about how many people still remember her. I think she's a wonderful character.
It's a character, it's a role you wait a lifetime to play.
You know, Greg, Norma Desmond lives on the razor's edge of madness.
Oh, yeah.
But in some ways, what she faces is an occupational disease of Hollywood. The flash of fame dies quickly, and Norma can't let go.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
No doubt the most famous line in the movie, and certainly the most parodied. But behind the words, the pain of a woman child whose development was arrested when too much success came too soon.
Norma Desmond, I would say, was captured when she was very young, when she was put in a gilded cage. And when you take a naive person, especially a young person who's beautiful, and you say, I'm going to make the world your oyster, they will never ask, what is the cost?
Clarissa Pinkola Estes, psychoanalyst and author of the bestseller Women Who Run with the Wolves, sees Norma as a woman trapped by her own fears and by those around her who refuse to tell her the truth.
We'll make our greatest picture.
Yeah, that's what I want to talk to you
It's
about.
a good script, isn't it?
You might say, she's not allowed to have her midlife crisis. She's not allowed to hit bottom and start building all over again from there.
Norma's predicament, stuck in a time warp as a teenage ingenue, may be more than just a Hollywood script. It may say something to us all.
The play, I think, is very poignant because it shows, you might say, a threshold or a doorway that all of us have to pass through. We all have to make a decision at some point in our lives not to be the ingenue anymore.
Norma's obsession with her fame or her past glory is reflected not only in the show, but in the set itself, the set by John Napier. I toured that set in New York City, and it's a combination of stage magic, heavy engineering, and Norma Desmond.
We're off stage left right now at the Broadway production of Sunset Boulevard, and the production in Denver is going to look remarkably similar to this because the idea is to take the experience of the Broadway show and put it on the road. This is the back of a 1932 Asada Frascini automobile, and this is also hand cast out of fiberglass. We made the molds for this. And this is the back of Norma Desmond's car, which appears very early on in the show. The full car is over here. We couldn't fit the full car upstage, so we have to have two cars, one which goes upstage and one which comes on from offstage. Wait, don't photograph the upstage side, though, because the upstage side makes it look like a prop. And these donuts are not edible, and they will not be edible on the road either. Norma Desmond had all her furniture made for her mansion, and we had all the furniture, of course, made for this show. But there's not a stock item on this set. All these are hand cast. Again, these are all hand cast and then molded in fiberglass. But the idea is that Norma Desmond built this mansion in approximately 1920 when she was a 20-year-old kid at the height of her powers, making a couple $1 million a year before she had to pay income tax. And where she used her money was to build this mansion. By the way, the scenery, in order to get it to Denver, it's 32 trucks, 32 semi-trailers of scenery. It's the biggest show that's ever been on the road, ever. See this Griffin table here? This Griffin table you can barely see because it's in a dark portion of the set. during most of the action, but it's such a beautiful piece, nobody ever really gets to see it. And of course, pictures of Norma Desmond are everywhere on the set. Statues of Norma Desmond. There's a bust of Norma Desmond over here at the newel post. Everything is Norma Desmond on this set. This mansion, we all know from having seen the Tony Awards and the various commercials of the show, we know that this mansion does some tricks. And we made a decision early on to make sure that the mansion for the touring version did the same tricks that this one does. So our intention all along was to give the audiences on the road the same scenic experience, the same artistic experience, the same costume experience, the same lighting experience, and the same musical experience that they have had in New York and in London. And we think we've done it.
Everything in the show then revolves around Norma Desmond.
Which is, frankly, the only way Norma will have it.
Well, after all, she is a star.
In her mind, the greatest star of all.
And Hollywood remains filled with them, as does our party tonight. Celebrities, movie buffs, and first-nighters trying their hand at a classic Hollywood line.
Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up now.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
More from the gala opening night party of the national tour of Sunset Boulevard.
When Sunset Over the Rockies continues.
The crowd for the opening night party of the national tour of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Sunset Boulevard seems to be enjoying every moment of the show. In many ways, it is quite possibly a once-in-a-lifetime event. Denver, opening city. But the question remains, why Denver? Other cities are larger, with a bigger base audience for theater. Why did Andrew Lloyd Webber and the Really Useful Company choose Denver as the city to start the Sunset Tour? Greg has their reasons.
Thanks, Ray. Now, a lot of people are shocked that Denver was chosen as the opening city for the national tour of Sunset Boulevard. I mean, it bypassed such cities as Washington, Boston, Chicago, Atlanta, and cities in Texas too numerous to mention. So why? Edgar Doby of the Really Useful Company gave me these reasons. 1, the Buell. It's a state-of-the-art theater. 2, the Crews, a technical staff considered to be among the best in the nation. 3, past success. Sir Andrew's shows do very well in Denver. And 4, perhaps most important, the audience. Denver has gained a reputation as a sophisticated theatrical city. You played a part in this tonight just by being a supporter of live theater in Denver and in Colorado. Give yourself a hand.
Along with Linda Balgord, Sunset Boulevard relies on the exciting stage presence of Ron Boehmer as Joe Gillis.
Sunset Boulevard, brutal boulevard, just like you will wind up in the ocean.
For Ron Boehmer, the cast, and the musicians, this is a demanding piece of work, but they're up to it.
As well as the lighting and sound technicians and the stagehands who make it all come together each and every night.
And the audience loved it. They're still talking about it and partying hard here in the courtyard of the Denver Performing Arts Complex.
The most exciting part of this is the message that Denver is on the top of the world in terms of entertainment.
See, this is my first Broadway show I've ever been to, so it was an experience for me.
The production was absolutely spectacular. I think it was, I don't know if anybody really knew what to expect, but you couldn't come out of the theater without a really warm feeling.
Oh, there's so many wonderful parts in Sunset Boulevard, but I really think she really did a wonderful job on As If We Never Said Goodbye.
Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
And now, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.
And Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Don't give somebody else a hard time.
Okay, how would you handle the line?
I would dodge it.
You know, my favorite line in the show comes early in the show. Joe Gillis says to Norma Desmond, Norma Desmond, you used to be big. And she says, I am big. It's the pictures that got small. I love that line. I've got to use it sometime.
It'd make a great exit line.
What did you think of the show?
Well, it's lush, it's lavish, it's extravagant. It's everything Norma Desmond would have wished for, and it's everything that Denver expects at a big touring show. I love the staging, the creative use of multimedia, and, of course, the brilliant performances.
The performances are what sold it for me. Linda Balgort is stunning in the role and breaks your heart. Ron Boehmer is great. He brings a lot of energy to the role of Joe Gillis. And Ed Dixon, who plays Max,
yes,
he has a vocal range that can go from the basement to the rooftop in the span of a single song. I thought that was just great. And that's why you should buy a ticket for this show.
Thanks for joining us on Sunset Over the Rockies.
Good night, everyone.
The production was fabulous, so were the actors, and what has been created outside is quite a fabulous production too, isn't it?
It's one of the best shows that we've ever brought to Denver. It's an absolutely fabulous show.
I am big. It's the pictures that got small.
I thought it was, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille.